British public have watched me grow up, and so it's quite a nice thing to do, to look back and to see what we've learned from my mistakes.
She is a global icon, a flawed one, a complicated one, a mischievous little minx, who I suspect will give as good as she gets.
My mother said to me, if you're nervous, just imagine him naked.
You were voted, at the height of the Spice Girls' success, Britain's favourite Spice Girl. You got a third of all the votes. Do you think you were the best?
I wouldn't dare to answer that and say I just
You
couldn't.
wouldn't dare to answer it. You'd dare to do anything.
How can I? I just think that would be just so cocky to think
were
I
you
was the
top
best.
dog? Were you the number one?
No, I never thought I was number one. I actually thought I was always number two.
To who?
To Emma.
Really?
Yeah, because I think Emma was much easier to like. She doesn't ever offend anybody. And I think, although I think I can communicate well with people and hopefully they identify with me, sometimes I would put my foot in it a little bit more. So, but that is very flattering to think, you know, that I was the most popular.
Emma won.
Yeah.
You two.
Oh, God.
Go on, who's three?
I couldn't say.
Oh, you can't stop there. No. We now have a pecking order, a ranking of Spice Girls. Who's third?
It'd be according to what dolls were left on the shelf.
Come on, who's third? Posh, scary, sporty.
I think that's probably sporty.
Sporty?
Yeah. Do you know what, actually, I always refer to Victoria, which is quite nice. She, you know, she'd get this kind of very black or white feeling, either absolute adoration or not. She knows that she's like Marmite.
You love her or hate her?
Yeah.
Which do you do?
I absolutely love her. The girl that I know has got absolutely nothing to do with what I see in the media.
But at the moment, she's not even in your top 3 Spice Girls.
That's talking about the image, isn't it?
So
the doll.
Who's fourth?
I couldn't say. I'm going to leave it at
You
that.
can't leave it there. We've now got the top 3. It's either Mel B or Posh.
Oh, my God, I'm not going to say the least.
You were all studying these charts.
No, we weren't.
Yes, you were. You'd mow each other down in hover-mothers if you got a chance.
No.
You
Not true, actually.
You were competitive.
Do you know what the funny thing about us, what I really learned, is that when the world was against us, we were the tightest, actually. It's a bit like family, that we're allowed to kind of criticise each other, but nobody else was. And if anybody was attack us, we'd be like a rock. And I actually do feel fiercely loyal. I want to defend them. So, yeah.
Who was the best looking? Who had the best face?
I think probably Emma.
Emma?
Emma, very pretty.
Most beautiful, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
The prettiest?
Yeah, prettiest. You know, Mel B, I have to say, she's absolutely beautiful, but I think she's more beautiful off camera. The camera never did her job.
Face for radio?
Yeah, no, she did. The camera was never did her justice. She's absolutely gorgeous, even more gorgeous in real life.
What would be the asset she has, which is better than the other 4? We're trying to design the perfect woman from each of the Spice Girls. We've got Emma's face.
She had great boobs.
I think we know... Well, you were voted Britain's best breasts.
Was I?
Yes. Apparently, the most popular breasts in Spice Girls were yours.
Wow. You give me my
And
mirror.
unlike the others, we have actually seen yours. Thanks to your early glamour career. So I can confirm they were magnificent.
Thank you.
So you're definitely getting the best breasts. So we have
Okay.
Emma's face, your cleavage,
Victoria's legs.
Victoria's legs.
Yes.
Fantastic
Oh,
pins.
I would say Melanie's bottom.
Melanie's bottom.
She's got an amazing bottom.
This is Melanie
B.
B.
Yeah.
So what's Melanie C offering us?
I would say I'd take her eyes.
Right.
And she has a lovely torso.
And whose brain are we going for?
Mine. That's your Victoria's.
Do you think you're the cleverest?
It depends what you define as clever, because sometimes you could say that Mel...
If you all play Scrabble, who would win?
Ooh. Ooh, I think I studied more, OK? I've read, I'm more into... I think they'll agree that I've read a lot more. I love books.
You're more intelligent.
That doesn't mean you're more intelligent. There's all different types of intelligence, because I think Mel B had a very instinctive, you know, maybe it's not through, you know, academics, but she had very instinctive intelligence. And Victoria had a fantastic business sense. I have to say, I loved being a band with her, because no one was ever going to rip us off with Victoria in the band. She was so good at it.
Who's the sexiest? Who do you think men would look at and want to go to bed with first? And you were the girl power band, so I think these questions are kind of fascinating.
OK,
because,
from my point of view.
Yeah, from where you as the band leader really saw things, you know? Because you were all very aware of yourselves, I thought, and also the power you had, particularly over
I think it was like a collective power. I loved, and I still do, and we show up, the five of us, we felt completely, like, in a way, untouchable, because you've got each other. So if I said something, if I confronted anybody, I know that, you know, that I had these 4 girls with me that would back me up, which was very nice.
What was the essence of girl power, do you think? At its heart, what was it really about?
It was about, and it is about, actually believing that no matter where you've come from, you know, who you are, you can empower yourself, you can give yourself that opportunity, that self-belief and that encouragement. I think it's about encouragement that you can make your dreams come true, no matter what it is. And
do you think you succeeded in changing perhaps the mindset of a generation of young women to think
I don't think it was about changing. I think it was an example of a generation that was already out there. You know, that we was kind of, you know, these girls that you didn't have to lose your femininity, you know, you didn't have to burn your bra and behave like a man. Actually, you can celebrate.
Well, you got into trouble. You said that basically feminism to you was about bra burning. And actually the feminist thing came after you, giving you a hard time.
I think it's such an ugly word. It really is.
Feminist?
And I kind of think it's all levelled out. Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
I think you were a force for good. A naughty force for good.
A naughty.
But a force for good.
Yeah, I think sometimes in life, if it's done, it's how it's done. If it's done playfully and rather than ramming it down your throat, no one wants to be preached to. It wasn't about that.
So, Geri, how is it that an ordinary girl from Watford became a global icon? From Watford to Hollywood, Geri Halliwell is one of the most iconic women of the last 2 decades.
Everybody around the world knows Ginger Spice.
Geri was well and truly a wannabe, and nothing was going to stand in her way on the road to fame and fortune.
We are doing exactly what we want to do. We're pursuing a dream.
Right from the early days of the Spice Girls, Geri was determined to make her mark on the world. Spice Girls! And her show-stealing appearance in a skimpy, patriotic dress became one of the defining images of the 90s.
I love her dress. I think she made a huge stamp and it's iconic. I mean, come on now. She knows what she's doing.
She was the one that would take on the producers head on if I introduced them. You know, she could be very naughty, especially if they were male.
I know you want to.
Geri's breast falling out at the Brit Awards. I don't think she staged that, but, you know, it grabs the front pages.
For Geri, the limelight could be difficult to share, and she tried to grab as much of it as she possibly could.
It just became a little bit competitive, who could push the boundaries the most. And it was funny, obviously, meeting Prince Charles. Mel B kissed him, Geri pinched his bum.
You have the world's press just 10 feet away. She couldn't help herself.
But you know what? I think you're very sexy.
Oh, no!
As your hand reached out to the royal button, what are you thinking?
I didn't actually pinch it, I patted it.
It was more of a pinch.
OK, thing is, when I'm Spanish, OK, or half Spanish, and when you meet my mother, she says, hello, how are you? And you always pats your bum. That's her kind of, that's the way she is. So there's a little bit of that.
So he's coming down the line.
Yeah, I don't...
You're seeing him with your mates. You see it's Prince
It was
Charles.
like nervous-
What is going through your head?
Nervous Tourette's kind of behaviour. When I get nervous, it's something I always trip up, do something. A lot of it is sometimes is nerves. What I've learned, maybe I didn't know it then, but of all, nearly every powerful man that I've met wants to be treated like a normal human being. They're so... When you're head of a company, whether you're the King of England, whether you're so used to telling everybody what to do and everybody, like, kissing your bum.
Well, did you quite fancy Prince Charles?
I didn't fancy...
You told him you found him sexy.
Do you know what it is? He's a prince, so that's at the time, so that's like, ooh, it's a prince.
You fancied him, didn't you?
No, I wouldn't say fancy. I was charmed by him. Yeah, he's charming.
I mean, if he'd
I
stopped-
sat next to him at our premiere.
What was that like?
That was funny. When I came in, like, on the movie with my I had this red swimming costume, and you went, ooh, that's very nice. So I thought, that wasn't bad, going to the movies with
He
Prince
said
Charles.
meeting you in that lineup was the second greatest moment of his life, and the greatest had been the last time he'd met you. Well, that's a bit of a clue, isn't it? It was like, come and get me, Geri. How did you come to decide to wear that Union Jack dress? Because that became your sort of iconic emblem.
The last time I was at the Brits, before we were famous, I made my own outfit in this green spangly thing. So I was thinking, what am I going to wear? And I got sent this black Gucci dress. And I was thinking, oh, God, what am I going to wear? That's a bit boring. And so then I thought, oh, my God, I just got a light bulb. I thought, OK, Brits, celebrate being British. And so then, literally, I got my sister, she stitched it onto the dress, onto the black Gucci dress. And it's a tea towel. That's what it is.
Really?
It's a tea towel.
When you look at that picture, what I was struck by was, of course, by wearing it, a lot of the papers cut off your bandmates for the front page. You became the front page picture.
Yeah.
And, I mean, did that cause friction? Were the others a bit peed off with you about it?
You'll have to ask them.
They were, weren't they?
I can't speak for them.
Yeah, but you must have been aware that they were a bit put out.
You've got to understand, I didn't think, I'm going to stitch this flag on my dress and premeditate that I'm going to get all that
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you weren't planning this to happen. But given that that's what happened, I was told they were all a bit cheesed off with it. You must have been thrilled, weren't you? Pick up all the papers, there you are.
Do you know what? If I'm honest, I would say I was quite aware of not what... On one hand, it's a mixture of emotion. On one hand, I'm going, wow, everyone's, looking at my dress and isn't that fantastic? But equally, I'm thinking, I'm quite mindful that there are 4 other girls in front of me, standing next to me. I got called out of class. I got a message, you've got to go straight home. And my brother was waiting for me and told me he found his body.
You've been refreshingly honest about, from a very early age, being desperate to be famous. You craved it.
I think it was craving attention. And also...
But fame as well.
Because I had this kind of illusion from... I think I was brought up on American television that, if you become famous, everything's going to be fine. You will not have a single worry ever again. Maids will pick up after you and it will all be, like, dreamlike. I mean, it's very naive, but, it was all that sensibility. And then when boys didn't fancy me or, I'd be thinking, I'm going to be famous, then you'll be sorry. It was almost like it was a way of owning some power.
I want to take you back to when you were 6 years old and you said you felt kind of unloved, that there wasn't much attention put on you, really.
The way I got my father's love was when I sang and when I danced.
It's quite interesting, I think, studying your parents. Your mum was Spanish.
Yeah.
Worked incredibly hard.
Yeah.
As a cleaner. Was working, 14-hour days
Yeah.
and so on. But she didn't want you to become a star.
Yeah.
Your dad didn't work hard, but, crucially, loved the idea of you living your dream.
My father was much more artistic and into politics. He was very well-read. He loved all of that old Hollywood. He kind of, because of his age, he introduced me to that. It's something that we had in common. And so he tried to put me on the stage when I was 6 years old, and my mother stopped it. And it was just a really strong way of connecting with my father.
You thought he was quite lazy, you say?
You know what I felt?
Compared to your mum, maybe?
Yeah. My father, he could have been a really successful man. He was really, really bright. And then he just... I think he had a car accident, and I watched him just kind of give up a little bit. And so I watched my mother work and work. From the day from 6 years old, my mother was I used to go with her. She was cleaning people's houses. So I just watched a very strong woman. I think my career, a lot of the time, was driven by my father's almost vision with my mother's work ethic, I think.
They split up when you were 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you had no money, did you, as a family, on either side, really? How poor were you, would you say?
I think it's all relative, but I felt different, I would say, to the children in my own class.
Why?
I could feel the difference. I just feel like... certain things, I felt quite embarrassed of... you really want to fit in. It would be just small things, like when I bring my packed lunch in, I could see that, that other people's... they have crisps and things like that. My mother would never... She couldn't really afford to buy things like that. Or I remember being very young, and a lot of my underwear and things like that were bought from a jumble sale. And my mother did an incredible job bringing us up, but I could just feel the difference. I had no elastic in my knickers, and I just felt...
Felt the odd one out, really.
A little bit, yes.
Your mother, Anna, wasn't that keen on you becoming a star, but she was to be disappointed, wasn't she?
I was dancing when I was 12.
Geri grew up in a modest 3-bedroomed house in Watford.
Young Geri was always wanting to be the centre of attention.
Always performing, even at home performing, singing into the hairbrush when she was little. I'd be playing the guitars and doing backup vocals behind her.
I think Geri doted heavily on her father, maybe because of the attention that my father gave her as regards, her potential. He obviously saw something early on, so yeah, I'd call her a bit of a daddy's girl, definitely.
But by the time Geri left school, she'd become a bit of a handful.
When Geri was a teenager, she went a bit wild.
Geri used to disappear maybe for a day or even longer. She'd go out on a rave, and these raves would start at 11 o'clock at night, and they'd go right the way through the night to the early hours of the next morning.
Everyone used to go to a pub called the Game Bird, which is obviously no longer there. My memories of Geri were standing on the pool table, dressed in an all-in-one silver catsuit, jumping up and down, being as loud as ever, and everyone knew Geri.
Geri soon found herself a job aged 18, podium dancing in nightclubs.
She was never scared of showing a bit of flesh, but who can blame her? She had a great figure.
Always looking for a way to turn heads, she soon graduated to glamour modelling.
I remember being a little bit concerned, stroke slightly horrified, thinking, well, where's this going to lead? Those are sort of pictures you see that bite celebrities later on in life. So she obviously had the foresight then that she wasn't going to do anything apart from boobies out.
It might have looked like Geri was going off the rails, but she definitely had a master plan. Fame by any means necessary.
This is the fashion police, and baby, you're busted.
A break came as a game show hostess. It made her a household name. In Turkey. Just as Geri's quest for fame and fortune was gaining momentum, she received some terrible news. Her father, who'd always encouraged her to follow her dreams, had suffered a sudden and fatal heart attack.
Yeah, she was absolutely devastated, as we all were.
She went into shock. I don't think she could believe it. None of us could. And it was so sad that he never got to see her as a massive star.
Where were you when you heard about what happened to your dad?
I was in class. I'd gone back to study. I was studying English literature, and I was studying, and I got called out of class, and my brother said, "You've got to come." I got a message, "You've got to go straight home." And my brother was waiting for me and told me he found his body.
You're all very close, obviously.
Yeah, it kind of makes you closer, I think, as brothers and sisters when you lose a parent.
Do you miss him, your dad?
I'm absolutely gutted sometimes that I don't have a father in my life. Yeah, I do, definitely. Yeah, I do. Sometimes I think when I'm confused about, you know, my what decisions to make in life, I wish I had that like fatherly role model to guide me. It took me a long time to grieve for him as well, because going straight into the Spice Girls, sometimes I don't think I would have been famous if it wasn't for my father's death, because the pain of it was so painful. And you know, in the Western world, when somebody dies, we don't have that. We're so formal. Nobody knew how to comfort me, and I didn't know how to express it either. It's that stiff, you know, we could just get on with it. And so I just turned all that pain into that, like, right, I'm going to make it. And I was almost militant with the girls. I know that looking back, I probably wasn't the easiest person. And it wasn't until I left the band, I think that's when I started to really feel, you know, how much I missed him.
I think you'd be very proud of you.
Thank you.
What I loved was the turkey show that you did. What on earth was that all about?
It's called Sesh Bakalam, Let's Make a Deal. So during the week...
Yes, but hang on. What are you doing in Turkey?
I know!
The weather girl routine. I mean, how did that happen?
It's basically, it's like a game show where you would just win, you know, kitchens and things like that. And so I was studying during the week, and then I'd fly out there, and I just have to go... Or sometimes I'd have to say something in Turkish and I'd just write it on my hand and go blah, 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 blah. I signed my first autograph in Turkey.
Then you moved on to nude photo shoots.
OK, on that, how it wasn't exactly like that. It was, I got into a modelling agency from doing this dancing. I had a friend, she said, oh, you know, photographically, you could work as a glamour model. So that means, a glamour model means that you don't mind showing in a tasteful way, you would do a bum cream, or so you don't mind showing a bit of flesh in a tasteful way. I was like, oh, OK, then. You could earn £200. I was like, oh, my God, really? So, anyway, but to build up your portfolio, what happens is the agent sends you off to a photographer, and so you'll do a nice headshot or something pretty. And they go, but in return, because you're not paying for it, you have to do some of his artistic shots.
Ah, yes.
And so I'm late teens. I've got no clue about protecting myself.
Are you proud of those pictures now?
Do you know, when I saw those pictures, I actually feel quite sad, because I kind of see the innocence and naivety in the face. It's not... I don't look at them and think I don't think they're empowering at all. I'm not ashamed of them.
So, Geri, all those dodgy jobs that you were doing did eventually pay off, didn't they? In 1994, Geri's plans to audition for the Spice Girls went horribly wrong when she spent too much time in the sun on a family holiday.
At first, I was quite irritated by her because, you know, she was sort of coming on the phone and the plans were constantly changing with her. She couldn't make an audition, you know, she was coming up with excuses.
But being Geri, she didn't allow a tiny problem like missing an audition to get in her way.
I think I blagged it a little bit and just was a bit loud and just pretended to be Mariah Carey.
Geri's determination paid off. She was in the group. Their manager moved all 5 of them into a modest 3-bedroom semi in Maidenhead.
Victoria and Emma shared. Mel C and Mel B shared. And, of course, Geri had her own room.
Because I am the original pop queen, everyone says.
Imagine 5 girls out of college, so I was about 18, 19, and it was just madness, chaos.
We'd wake up at 3 in the morning and go out clubbing in London.
It was Geri who was impatient for success.
You know, I'm just feel like time's running out, I've got to get there.
She was a bit older than the other girls and was probably looking at this and thinking, well, this is the last shot at it, really. So, you know, she really had hold of it with 2 hands and really drove the project.
I tell you what, there's millions of kids out there that want to be pop stars. Do you know what I mean? And we're actually taking steps closer and closer to a dream.
The thing is with Geri, she's very organised actually, and quite bossy. she kept us all in line.
But you made things. I made that side.
Geri and Mel B had a very fiery relationship.
I know I did. I just forgot a bit. That's why.
The thing is with me and Geri, once you put us together, which we were together quite a lot, but just me and her, there was no stopping. You know, it would actually be better for us two if Melanie was around, because then she'd go, look, you two, can you just stop? Me and Geri alone together, craziness.
Yo, tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Don't tell me what you want.
After 2 years of relentless rehearsal and a change of manager to Simon Fuller, their first single, Wannabe, became a #1 smash hit.
I wanna really, really, really wanna zig a zig, ah.
And the girls went on to conquer the world.
If you wanna be my lover.
There you are, with 5 girls. You put all this work in, but lots of people want to be pop stars, and then suddenly, bang, you're #1. And not just in Britain. This song goes #1 everywhere.
It sounds... I know this sounds cocky, but I absolutely believed in us. I did. I really did. It was a very, very exciting time. It's hard to explain it and put it into words.
Mel hinted there that you two stuck in the same room for too long would be not a good idea.
You're questioning.
You're never going to tell me, are you?
It was an amazing feeling to have somebody that was as brave as you, that would absolutely, if I jumped off, she'd jump with me. That somebody that she had guts, which I really, really admire. It was such a nice feeling to have someone match you in that way. But obviously, you know, you can't get on all the time. So.
What's it like when living with four other girls in a house? It must be tricky, isn't it?
I think, you know, particularly in the beginning, I was bossy and very driven, which is probably a positive thing, but also probably slightly put pressure on the relationship sometimes. Because sometimes it's that fine line between friendship and business. Do you know what I mean? So it's always being crossed. You know, sometimes you just want to let somebody off the hook, but equally, we've got a show to do, we've got to show up.
Does he know how important he was to you, do you think?
He told me to go to a 12-step programme.
And did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Did it work?
Yeah, it saved my life.
You've dated some very famous gentlemen over the years.
God. Oh, dear. You know, I hate it, right? Because every time I go out with somebody, like, the minute I'm seen on a date with them, just maybe one try-out date, you know, then it's blown up into proportion. So this whole list comes out.
Chris Evans, you went out with.
I did go out with Chris.
Were you in love with him?
I was very excited by... I always loved Chris anyway from The Big Breakfast. I really admired him. So when I met him, it was very much... I felt like there was an equality about us. So I was very excited by it. So and he was a good, decent bloke. I don't know... I wouldn't want to measure the love there, but I do...
Do you feel love for him?
At the time, I think it was infatuation. Looking back, it was too short to feel, you know...
Because he's a very exciting kind of guy, isn't he? And you are too. I could see it working.
Do you know what? It was...
You'd have had perfect little ginger children.
I'm not real ginger, honey.
What?
I'm not real.
That's terrible.
There's a revelation for you.
You're a total fraud. What are you then?
I'm just kind of like mousy brown.
Really?
Maybe I had a little golden fleck in there when I was a child, but not really a proper
Mousy
one.
brown spice isn't quite the same
It's not
thing,
quite
is
the
it?
same. I've been dyeing my hair since I was 12 years old. Different colours. It just so happened at that moment I was red. I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like ending the interview there, to be honest.
I know.
Let's move on to... Let's make it easy for you. Let's move on to Robbie Williams. In love with him?
I absolutely love Rob. Rob and I met each other at a really poignant place in my life. I just left the Spice Girls and I was incredibly lonely and nobody else on the planet knew how that felt except Rob. And so we were both I felt like we were both quite broken at the time and quite lonely. And it was very much more of a, I wouldn't say it was a romantic, it was more, I really understand what you've been through, and he understood me. Also, when I was really struggling, you know, with an eating disorder, and he really pointed me in the right direction of how to sort it out.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way?
He told me to go to a 12-step programme.
And did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Did it work?
Yeah, it saved my life.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm incredibly grateful to him.
Why do you think it saved your life?
Because I think I would have ended up an anorexic, bulimic mess, really.
I mean, I've read various things over the years about your eating problems. I wasn't aware it was ever that serious.
When my father died, it really kicked it off. I stopped eating. It's a way of not engaging. And one of those things, you know, so you don't sit at family dinners. I just completely emotionally shut down.
I mean, did you eat at all when your father died?
Oh, I got down to under 6 stone. I was just eating like an apple and some, like, 1 apple and some coffee and some bean sprouts. I was very, very controlling. I'm quite petite frame, so I'm curvy, so I can't carry a lot of weight. So when I was really tired, I'd comfort eat, and then the stress of thinking, oh, my God, I'm going to look fat on camera or something, then I'd go and make myself sick all the time. And when I started getting help, oh, my God, it was just... It takes so much... I admire anybody that reaches out and says, you know, I can't do this alone. And I think...
Did you literally stand up and say, I'm Geri and I'm bulimic?
Oh, God, yeah. And when you're famous...
What's that moment like when everyone knows who you are?
That's the thing, because even if you're not famous, we all want to think that, you know, our outsides look pretty, you know, and we're all keeping it together. So to admit when it's not going well, and you've got that fame, that, you know, that bravado, the ego, to kind of admit that you're struggling, I'm struggling...
Did you find it humiliating at the time?
The funny thing is, actually, it kind of brought me back down to earth and reminded me I'm just human, just like everybody else.
How long was it afterwards that you split up from Rob?
I didn't actually go out with Rob.
You didn't?
No. We were
never a relationship?
No.
Does he know how important he was to you, do you think?
Probably not. I don't know.
Well, he will now. Tonight, you look absolutely glowing with health and vitality.
Thank
so,
you.
Do you still have that inner doubt, do you think, about it?
I think, for me, like, I've really worked on myself to have a healthy, you know, a healthy diet. I eat chips and chocolate. I don't allow myself to exercise as much. I try and have moderation, really.
And do you feel happier?
I haven't got another diet left in me. I just couldn't do it to myself ever again. The other most important thing is I want to be a healthy role model for my daughter. I'm so pleased that I've cleaned up my act for her, really.
So the Spice Girls have become this worldwide phenomenon, but beneath the happy facade, things were going badly wrong. In the summer of 1998, the Spice Girls had launched their biggest world tour to date.
As time went on, Geri's power was slightly taken away from her. It was diminishing. Other people were coming through the ranks within the band. And I don't think she felt comfortable with that. And certainly she was getting depressed.
I think I recall her saying now, like, the Spice Girls had become a monster that was spinning out of control as such, and she had no control on that.
Today is Thursday the 28th of May. I'm in Paris, and yesterday I left the Spice Girls.
Geri turned up at my door 2-3 o'clock one morning in tears, let her in, and she's saying, it's all over, I need to leave the country, I need to get out of here, I need to get away.
It was very difficult, and I didn't know she was going, and I was a bit like, oh.
We'd made a pact, me and her, that if she wanted to leave, she'd tell me, or if I wanted to leave, I'd tell her, and she just left, like, all of a sudden just vanished. It was really, really upsetting for me.
This is a message to the fans.
Geri offered no explanation for her departure, and what she was going to do next was unclear. But she did say she would be back.
I thought she was making a mistake. They were her best friends, they were so close. And I didn't know how she was going to cope on her own, to be honest.
that point in her life where I think she was a little bit kind of confused and lacking direction and not really knowing what she wanted to do. It must have been very hard to sort of see this continuing success story going on.
But help was at hand from her old friend George Michael, who, having left Wham at the height of their fame, knew exactly what she was going through.
George rang her up and said, well, we had a house in Saint-Tropez, and he said, why don't you come stay with us? I encouraged her to not be Ginger Spice. So I'm like, we're going to get you some normal clothes. George probably helped her more with, you know, her career.
In 1999, after just over a year out of the limelight, Geri made a typically show-stealing comeback performance for an old friend.
Happy birthday to you.
So, let's clarify this once and for all. Why did you leave the Spice Girls?
Dun, dun, dun. Looking back in hindsight, I was always labelled the leader. And also, I think at the beginning, I was very strong and they needed a stronger member at the beginning because the other girls were younger and they appreciated my strength. But naturally, as we became more famous, that's going to change. The others are finding their confidence and their own voice, quite rightly too. And so that dynamic's going to change. That was very hard to adjust to. And it was so big at one point, I felt it was almost irrelevant to us. It just felt like we were 5 cartoon cutouts. We could be anyone standing there. I felt like the job was done. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't really needed anymore. And there was definitely friction the way the relationship between Melanie and I, she knows that. And I found it increasingly difficult. And amalgamation of that and being tired, I kind of threw in the towel. I said, OK, I give up. You know, maybe the balance of this band, you know, I don't fit in anymore.
Mel said that you had a pact, which you went back on.
I don't remember that pact.
Quite emotional saying that,
yeah,
as if you let her down.
I think I was just, you know, it was very emotional. I was very cross. I was asked to do an interview for breast cancer care. And they had asked me because I'd had a scare a long time ago. And I was like, fantastic. And sometimes I just wanted to show up as a single, you know, as just myself. And for some reason, it got stopped. They said, we all want to do it, or, you know, or you're not doing it. And I was just like, do you know what? I haven't come this far in the game to do something, you know, to be told not to do that. And so it was just that was the defining moment.
I mean, who was the last conversation with a band member you had?
We were on this tiny private jet flying into London to come into the lottery, and I just went, bye, girls. And so I was just like, maybe you're going to be happier without me.
And was that mainly you and Mel B, do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're both very strong personalities.
Yeah, and so actually...
And she just got fed up with you being the boss.
And, you know, so fair enough.
So you said, bye, girls. Did they know you were going then? Did you say, I'm leaving?
I didn't say I was leaving. I just said, I'm not coming. The next day, I said, I'm not coming back.
How did they react? Do
you know who I absolutely loved the reaction the best was Victoria, because she rang me and went, what? Like a proper good sister would.
What did she say?
Whatever. She properly got on the phone and tried to pull me back in.
How long before you spoke to Mel B again?
Actually, first of all, I launched into my solo career. There was a lot of ego in there. It was like, right, you don't need me. Well, F you, I'm going to do it for myself.
And you were actually very successful, weren't you? You had #1 hits. And,
yeah,
that must have wound up Mel even more.
There was definitely an F you in there, if I'm honest. Absolutely. And then, but slowly, as time went on, I actually probably was the one that stayed in contact with them all. I went round to see them and would write them letters.
So when did you first see Mel B again and talk to her?
I can't remember, but I wrote letters. I think I drove up to her house and just talked it through. I wanted to go around and kind of make amends and say, you know, I'm sorry for my part.
Who said sorry first?
I don't think she's ever said sorry.
Really?
No.
She doesn't think she ever did anything wrong?
No. That's OK.
Would you like it if she finally took
it's
some on the
fine.
chin?
No, it's fine. No, we were just young. There's nothing to say sorry for. We were just young.
But you did say sorry.
I did, and I'm sorry now.
Tell me about Henry.
I was quite instantly attracted to him.
I mean, who do you spend more time cuddling, the dogs or him? You sold 12 million records as a solo artist. Mel C was second with 10 million. Mel B third. Emma fourth. Posh last.
OK.
What do you think of that?
I didn't realise it was that, to be honest. I didn't realise I'd sold the most.
And you want me to honestly believe that this is the first time you realised you'd sold more solo records?
In that numbers, I did not know.
Did you know you'd sort of sold more?
I knew I had more number ones than everybody else. OK. Did I sound smart? I just sound smart.
In 2005, you decided to put your solo career on the back burner, and something much more important came along in your life. In 2005, Geri became a proud mum to daughter Bluebell Madonna Halliwell.
Bluebell is an absolute credit to her. She's such a gorgeous child, and Geri absolutely adores her. And she's a great, great mum.
You know, she was having to get up and change nappies and feed and dress, and because she didn't want to just hand her off.
I think she's got more compassion to herself now, so she looks after herself better, more compassionate about those around her.
Bluebell's going through that spell right now where she just says what she thinks. Most of the time she says no. She doesn't want to do something. Her child is going to be the biggest success story of her life.
Geri's also found happiness in her love life.
I suppose I always believed that Geri would end up, she'd always find Mr. Right, but I didn't realise it would be an aristocrat.
And against all the odds, she's also made friends with her former bandmates.
It was a really good thing. It was lovely when they got back together. I was really happy for her. She always had guilt about leaving the girls, and I think it would have followed her forever.
We want to thank you for believing in the Spice Girls and making our dreams come true.
And last month, 13 years after she first wore that dress, Geri was back, picking up an award for the Best Brits performance of the last 30 years.
I'm a bit shocked. First of all, I want to say a big...
And still tussling for the limelight with Mel B. You're never going to change, you two, are you?
To be fair, I thought she'd dried up.
Of course.
That's why I thought she was running out of things to say.
Of course she did.
I know.
Oh, no, we believe you. We believe you. Now, look, tell me about Henry, who seems a delightful chap. How did you meet Henry?
I met him on a beach. I was quite instantly attracted to him.
What, he was walking along, you went, whoa!
He just instantly got my attention, I thought.
What, was he drowning, or what was going on?
He just walked on. He walked on the beach, and I went, no.
You've been together quite a long time, haven't you?
We have.
How
He's
long?
my longest boyfriend I've had in the last 16 years. Almost a year.
Almost a year?
Because when I was in the Spice Girls and doing my solo career, there wasn't any time. I just wasn't present.
I mean, you wrote in your autobiography the following characteristics that the perfect man had to have.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
OK, is Henry these things? He's straight, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll confirm with Henry later. And virile? Your words, not mine.
Yes.
OK, so he's virile.
Yes.
I love this one. Must be able to afford first-class travel with a healthy bank balance bigger than mine.
OK, that sounds really shallow.
But
I think that's about being an equal. This list was written how many years ago?
I love this list.
10 years ago.
Does he like your dog? Is your dog still alive?
Yeah, I've got 2 dogs. I think they're OK.
Does he like the dogs or not really?
It's OK.
Bit dodgy.
It's OK.
Why doesn't he like your dogs?
I didn't say he didn't like them.
Clearly things aren't great in the relationship. What are your dogs' names?
This is so weird. William, Harry, and Daddy.
What? William, Harry, and Daddy?
Yes.
Why? Which one doesn't like Henry?
They don't. None of them dislike him.
There's clearly a problem.
It's a jealousy thing.
Between the dogs and Henry, or Henry and the dogs. I mean, who do you spend more time cuddling, the dogs or him? You have raised the spectre of there being a problem in this relationship between the dogs and Henry.
There's not. I just suddenly thought, does Henry like my dogs?
Well, you actually, the last one you wrote was, treats me like a queen, yet we're best friends.
Yeah.
Which I thought was rather nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Does he do that?
Yeah.
Well,
He's learning.
then, apart from the dog problem...
Yes.
He's pretty well there, isn't he?
We'll see.
Talk to me about Bluebell, because she seems a real little chip off the old block.
Bluebell has taught me what love is, and she's made me realise how much my own mother loves me, and I appreciate my mother so much more. She is the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I'm so grateful to be a mother. I love her more than anyone or anything, because I think the key to happiness is to love somebody else more than yourself. I just so enjoy it.
Geri Halliwell, thank you very much.
Thank you.